something special that hasn't been done in Europe, that landing in the city center. So we selected the pier. I went to Kamil, who's a Cupcrafters dealer for Europe. I told him, listen, we want to do a special project with Red Bull. You have the perfect aircraft for that. Can I borrow it for a couple of weeks? So I borrowed the aircraft, and then after successful landing, I told Kamil, listen, dude, I'm never giving the aircraft back. How much is it? I want to pay for it.
Remind me not to let you borrow my airplane.
So yeah, can you lend me Draco when it's done? So.
I lend you Draco, I'll never see it again.
And that's how I became a happy owner of EX2. And for a while I've been flying the EX2, and I was always joking with some friends of mine that this is a perfect setup if you're not a helicopter pilot and if you want to come and land somewhere short. And this helicopter thing started to planting seeds in my brain, and so let's do something helicopter-like with an airplane. So me and Wojtek, the guy right here in front of you, we started thinking about the project of putting the aircraft on a helipad. We started researching Poland. All of the Polish ones, they belong to hospitals, so we couldn't close a hospital to the project. So either go big or go home. So what's the most famous helipad in the world? So, of course, it's the one on the top of Burj Al Arab. We called our colleagues in Dubai. We said, hey, we want to put the plane on the iconic building, on the only 7-star hotel in the world. And I said, yeah, sure, come over. So once I started practicing, I knew that my EX2 would probably be enough, as you said, but we called Brad. Brad was very positive about the project from the beginning, and then he started rolling the ball on your side and introducing us together. I've been watching your videos for many years before, and I was a big fan, so when Brad told me, hey, listen, we're getting Mike on board, then I was sure we can pull it off.
Awesome.
And it turned out to be a great team. I mean, Cupcrafters with Mike, we've done other projects before. All you guys have seen Scrappy. Mike, at one point, I think, and maybe even more now, had 11 Carbon Cubs in his shop that he was working on in various stages, so he knows the airframe really well. Luke's an incredible pilot. He is a Cupcrafters owner. He owns an EX2, so he knows the airplane really well, and we were happy to support from the manufacturer's perspective in Yakima.
Yeah. So great team, guys. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we had to do in preparation for this. It looks a little cowboyish. The behind the scenes of pulling this off on the safety aspects is bigger challenge than the entire build, than the entire preparation. There were on the ground for the event, we had, well, I'm going to go, before we even get to the day, I want to tell you a little bit about preparation, just checking winds. There's little clips of us holding up smoke on this building. And if you think that was just going to be for 5 minutes or what's the wind right before he comes in, that was a week of getting up at 3 a.m., going out there and burning off thousands and thousands of dollars of smoke bombs. And I'll tell you why. The biggest challenge of landing on that iconic helipad, I can honestly say I would take any helipad, and I think Luke would agree, on Earth rather than that one. And I think a lot of people will get it real quick. The building architecturally was designed to sit out in the ocean and look like a giant sailboat. You can see it, just seeing it now, that if it were on the horizon, it is a giant sail. Well, to make it look right, they actually built an airfoil sail. That building is an airfoil, which created a really unique set of wind that made it extremely challenging and really tightened up the amount of wind we allowed ourselves to make this attempt. If you're out in the backcountry and you got a ridge line, the wind always has a place to settle and stop and flatten out. On this building, the wind actually, at all kinds of angles, it will hook the airfoil and it will suck the wind to the building and it will roll it on a curve. And then, if you know much about airfoils, probably it's not a good idea to stick a big round object out away from the building with a funnel on the bottom of it, and think that it's not going to do the most wickedly crazy things ever. So when we were doing smoke bomb tests, we'd stand out there and we'd feel this breeze and we'd pop the smoke bomb and we'd watch the wind, and all of a sudden it'd go up and then it would just spiral. And sometimes we'd launch the smoke and it would come by and it would spiral down. And it was just the most challenging. And then when you go, which way are we going to come? Let's come this way, let's come that way. We'd stand on one side and the wind was this beautiful headwind. We're going to come from that side. We go stand to that side, it was a beautiful headwind, both directions. There was no way to approach without a tailwind landing if the winds were hugging that airfoil. So we were playing with, what are our limits? How many degrees off heading? And we started tightening them up. And then how much wind can we allow? And we started shrinking it. We needed over 7 knots and under 20. And the more we went, we started going over 7, under 18, under 15, and it constantly changed because it was not a normal approach. So Luke did an unbelievable job, and we played with a really challenging set of wind circumstances. And Luke, I don't know if you want to add any of this, so you can interrupt me anytime, but
A couple things I noticed when we were doing the prep work. If it was quiet, anything above about 5 knots of wind, and you could actually feel the helipad move a little bit. I mean, it affected it that much, and this is a big steel structure on top of a building. So we knew the wind was affecting the building and doing weird things around the building itself, and that was pretty interesting in and of itself. But the other challenging piece about the wind is we rarely got constant steady wind from one direction for more than a few minutes. The wind during the course of the day, it would start coming off the desert early in the morning and going out to sea. And by the middle of the day, it was coming off the sea and going back onto the desert. So as the wind shifted around all the compass points, we had maybe a 15-minute window?
Yeah.
This happened?
Sometimes
We-
even less.
yeah, we watched this every day, every morning, and we thought it was going to be, we figured out in a couple days, and it was just unbelievable how many notes we took. But as it would swing, sometimes it would be direct crosswind, which you can't fly into a building or through a building. If it was a rooftop, it would be easy, pick your compass row. But this isn't the case. And it'd be going that one direction, like he said. And some mornings, we'd start, hey, it's swinging, and we're wanting to catch the headwind, running lengthwise. And we'd watch it swing and be like, all right, start measuring, set the smoke bomb off, and it just flipped. From that desert heat change, as that sun came up, it just 180 on us. And other days it took 15 minutes. And so for those of you who watched the landing, I'm going to tell you something really unique. There was no time that anybody wanted anything other than the absolute tightest safety parameters. But there's a shot that you guys have all seen where this airplane comes across, and it's in the clip, and you can see it kind of touch down and drop one wheel and keep flying by. What's unique about that is that was just a flyby. We had decided not to land, and Luke was practicing just sight pictures. Now, if you're landing your airplane, you're all used to the grounds coming at you, visual references. Well, imagine coming down, and there's nothing there but a building over here, and you can't see the path. So you're kind of hunting for it, and the sight window of ground approaching isn't there. So Luke did lots of approaches, just sight window, fly over. Sight window, fly over. It was not during an attempted land, and it was just getting a feel for the plane, and we were okay with slightly higher winds. It wasn't even much more. And just that slight extra wind, when he came over, it was a flyby, and it dipped it.
That was full power.
He actually, if you slowed the video down, my heart sank. I'm expecting a flyby at 15 knots higher airspeed on a Cub. That's like a lot of extra energy and lift. And he's just doing a cruise by. He hits full power to do a flyby. Goes full throttle. He's above the pad high. Just no landing, and it goes boom. That little spiral we're talking about, that some days went up, some days went down, was a surprise. And that brought him all the way to the runway, touched. He's a pro. Kicked the rudder, kicked the aileron, rolled it back, peeled it off the side. And on that day, we called the event.
That was our perspective from the helipad. What was your perspective from the airplane, Luke?
Yeah.
Having done so many practice landings for a year before, we filmed 650 landings. I did way more than that. 650 we have documented. I was sure that that's gonna be easy. Having hit the touchdown point every single time, having stopped with plenty of margin on the pad that we painted on the runway, that seemed like a pretty easy task. And then the first time I actually flew towards the building, I was like, Mike Tyson says, like, you have a plan, and it's a good plan until you get punched in the mouth. Once we got into this wind shear that pulled me towards the helipad and bounced me off, that's when I got punched in the mouth, and we had to change everything. The wind was a huge challenge, but for me, I was always pretty sure that all my approaches, they were like a helicopter auto rotation, high angle, high descent rates, that would dissipate a lot of energy into the undercarriage. And looking at the videos, I was always really flat, dragging the aircraft in. So having the low depth perception, having the helipad 600 feet in the air and nothing below you, has been a really big challenge for the visual picture from the flying point of view. But having those guys there and having Mike on the radio giving me tips as well about the ground speed. He was there with a speed gun, because we, over the course of 2 weeks before the landing, we did a lot of calculations about the landing distances using just the speed gun and the ground speed, knowing how far distance I need to stop. Yeah, that was. The video looks good. It looks fairly easy on the video, but definitely the hardest thing I ever had to do in the airplane. And I have 12,500 hours in the air. So.
Yeah. So it was awesome. Luke, no hesitation. I honestly, one of the greatest pilots I've ever had the privilege of working with. It's fantastic. But that day, that wind pulled down on that little spiral airfoil off that building and that funnel sticking out in the side of it. We were going to make the attempt later that day, and we had the beaches cleared. We had to get permission from hotels. We ran caterpillars down and smoothed out so there would be no sandcastles or holes on the beach. We closed hotel beaches for safety. We had fire personnel on the ground on the beach. We had fire personnel on the building. We had the whole area evacuated. We had boats in the water with guys with scuba gear on and mouthpieces ready to jump, stationed around the building. All this preparation, hundreds of people, everything lined up. And when that air pulled them down like that, we said, call it off. That's it. We're done. We need to reevaluate the wind parameters. And we only had 1 day scheduled with the governing bodies, the country, the hotel, everybody. So that day we called it off without even making an attempt. Was the day we're not doing it. It's over. That's hard to do, but it's the right thing to do. We're done. We're not making the attempt. And we went back and we just kind of collected ourselves and said, guys, we've looked at a lot of data. Let's talk about what it would actually take to make this attempt safely. This is the only way we're willing to do it. And on the ground, we said if we wanted to try it, we need to take that wind margin and even tighten it up more. If the wind was really low, but at 7 or above, and we had just a couple of knots, then we could do it. The likelihood of that wind doing that while making a swing from one side to the other on that change from morning to afternoon heat was absolutely the center of a bullseye with a dart on top of it. I'm telling you, when we looked at the data, we're talking about, we may wake up the next day